Why would I be lending out money if not for the interest? Duncan asked frostily. But isn't the interest too high? James asked warily. Cut the crap. You either pay me what you owe or I'll chop your limbs off. Duncan glared at him. No, don't. I'll pay. James was flustered by the situation he was in. Can you please give me a few more days to pay up, Mr. Doyle? I promise I'll pay you in full. No. You are to pay me tonight. Where am I going to find you if you escape? Duncan demanded. But how am I supposed to produce this much money in one night? James cowered in fear. Didn't you say that your sister is the chairperson of Nicholson Corporation? Several $1 million are considered peanuts to her. Duncan smirked sinisterly. What? James froze up for a while before he continued sheepishly. Mr. Doyle, knowing my sister, she will most likely refuse to pay my debts. She usually helped him out of most of the trouble he got himself into, but once they had anything to do with gambling or drugs, it was the end of the discussion. Don't worry. I'll help you. Duncan smiled venomously. Help me? How will you help me? James was taken aback by Duncan's offer to help. But Duncan did not give him a straightforward reply. Instead, he simply gestured to his henchmen and took an axe that they handed him. As James watched on with terror in his eyes, Duncan swung the axe down in the direction of his wrist. In the president's office at Nicholson Corp., Dahlia took a sip of coffee and continued immersing herself in work. Although Hank didn't show it, he was facing all sorts of obstacles in private. He pushed every matter to her, regardless of whether it was big or small, which caused her to be so busy that she had to work overtime every day till midnight. Ms. Nicholson. Right then, a young female assistant knocked on the door all of a sudden. What is it? Dahlia looked up at her. Because Julie wasn't a very reliable secretary, she hired another assistant, Kelly Porch, to share the workload. Ms. Nicholson, someone sent you a parcel and asked me to pass it to you directly. The person mentioned that it's a surprise, Kelly said, holding a gift box. Okay, put it on the desk. Dahlia nodded, then a thought struck her. Kelly, it's getting late. You should head home first. You don't have to wait for me. Okay, Ms. Nicholson. Kelly turned around and left. Dahlia rubbed her eyes and finally finished her work. She turned her gaze to the gift box and decided to open it. However, the moment she opened it, she was so frightened that her face went deathly pale. What lay inside the gift box was a bloody hand. It was very obvious that the hand had just been cut off not long ago because the blood had not clotted yet. It was a very shocking sight. While she was still in shock, her phone suddenly rang. When she answered it, she immediately heard Duncan's voice. Ms. Nicholson, you must have already received my gift. Who are you? Dahlia's expression went cold. Who I am is not important. What's important is that your brother owes me $38 million, and you have to repay his debt, Duncan said plainly. Why should I believe you? Dahlia frowned. You don't believe me? Then listen for yourself. Duncan said. Dahlia, save me. Hurry up and save me. They cut my hand off. James shouted, his voice full of fear and misery. James, what's going on? Why would you owe someone money? Dahlia hurriedly demanded. Dahlia, this isn't the time to ask these questions. Hurry up and come here with the money, or I'm going to die. James sobbed over the phone. Ms. Nicholson, did you hear that? Bring me the money in exchange for him. Otherwise, I don't know what other extreme things I'll do to your brother. Duncan threatened. Don't do anything. You just want money, don't you? I'll give it to you, said Dahlia in panic. Okay, then I'll be awaiting your grand arrival, Duncan said with a laugh. After hanging up, Dahlia dared not waste another second and, without hesitation, immediately rushed to the casino. She couldn't just sit around and do nothing when her brother was in danger. While driving, she called Dustin, but he didn't pick up. She had no choice but to send him a text along with the address. 20 minutes later, Dahlia arrived at the underground casino. After she told someone her name, Gangster led her to a VIP room on the second floor. A bunch of violent-looking gangsters were standing around inside the room. James was kneeling on the floor and trembling, his face streaked with tears and snot. Someone had simply bandaged the stub of his arm where his hand should be, temporarily stopping the bleeding. Sis, you're finally here. When James saw Dahlia walk in, he immediately wept tears of joy as if he saw his savior. How dare you? Who taught you to gamble? Dahlia slapped James across the face. She knew that her brother liked to gamble. She had always warned him against it in all sorts of ways and had even given him a beating before. She had thought that he would have changed his ways, but who would have thought that he would get himself into more serious trouble now? Ms. Nicholson, I won't meddle with you disciplining your brother, but you must give me the money first, Duncan said with a cigar between his lips. It's you. The moment Dahlia saw him, she immediately remembered something. She quickly realized that she had seen Duncan before. Previously, when she was eating at a restaurant, he had led a gang of people to look for trouble with Dustin but had gotten beaten up instead. That's right. It's me. Now, can you give me the money? Duncan said with a mirthless smile. This is a bank check for $38 million, not a penny less. Dahlia placed a check on the table. I don't want a check. I want the payment in cash, Duncan said with a shake of his head. Cash? Dahlia frowned and said, where will I get so much cash at such short notice? That's for you to figure out. We only accept cash here, Duncan said casually. You're just making things difficult for me on purpose. Dahlia's expression was icy. She would probably need a truck to transport $38 million worth of cash. Ms. Nicholson, mind your words. Does your brother still want to keep his other hand? Duncan swept his gaze toward James. You. Dahlia gritted her teeth and managed to control herself. Can you give me 2 days? I'll bring you the cash as fast as I can. I wouldn't say no, but you have to have a few drinks with me first. Duncan stood up slowly and took 2 glasses out from the drinks cabinet. He filled them with whiskey and handed one to Dahlia. Drink this, and I'll consider giving you 2 days. What? Looking at the glass full of whiskey, Dahlia couldn't help but frown slightly. Duncan obviously didn't have good intentions. She didn't know if she could still leave that place after she drank it. You refuse? Then you're just disrespecting me. Duncan's smile disappeared slowly as he said, it's only right for one to repay their debt if they owe money. If they can't, then I have no choice but to cut their limbs off. Guys, chop James' other hand off. Yes, sir. 2 gangsters laughed evilly and immediately pressed James against the floor. No. Don't chop my hand off. James was scared out of his wits as he begged for mercy. Dahlia, save me. Save me, quick. I'm your brother. I don't want to become handicapped. I'm begging you. Hurry up and drink the whiskey. Chop it off. Duncan shouted. Wait. Just as the axe was about to strike, Dahlia shouted hastily, I'll drink. Haha, that's more like it. Drink up, Duncan said with a sly smile. Dahlia took a deep breath, picked up the glass, and downed the whiskey in one go. Even though she knew that something was wrong with it, she had no choice but to drink it because her brother's life was in Duncan's hands. Now, she could only pray that she would hold up. Nice. You really are an impressive woman. Come on, let's have another drink. Duncan filled her glass again. Dahlia frowned deeply, and she hesitated for a moment. But she still finished the glass of whiskey. After downing 2 glasses, she felt lightheaded quickly and felt herself burning up. Shit, Dahlia thought. Knowing something was off, she tried to fight the feeling and force herself out the door. However, before she could take more than 2 steps, her vision went black, and she fainted on the floor. Hee. I'll see how you try to run away from me, Duncan said while stroking his chin, his expression perverted.